right? Maybe. Maybe it's gonna work. No? Am I not live? What's going on? There we go. Finally connected. Okay. So, no, I'm not discussing on Discord, at least not right now, because I want to stay focused on the what I want to talk about, because I have limited time for this stream, which would normally be a very, very long stream, but it's not, because I'm trying to stay focused on what we're trying to get through today, which there's a lot to say about the movie. I have seen it twice. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to have a ton of people here because it's inconvenient timing for many. But, we'll see. So, Jurassic World Rebirth, the new movie. Where to start? I'll start with just my experience of the movie. So, I went to see it first with a few of my friends when it premiered here. So this was midnight, July 1st. Hey, welcome. So we got theater. It was like $11.50. I did not get the popcorn bucket because that's too expensive. Hello, welcome, Beast First. You can hear me now? Have you not heard me before? Or did it just take a long time to send? I don't know. I think the live stream is very far behind. My Wi-Fi is very slow too. So yeah. Anyway, I got to the movie, and we had the movie in 40x, so they give you glasses, and they gave us actually a rain poncho, which isn't necessary. But I think it's probably for legal reasons, and I kept it though, because it's a yellow rain poncho, like in Jurassic Park, and it has the logo on it. So yeah, anyway, we go into the movie, and the 40x is kind of cool, because the way you see the movie in 3D, it makes it a little bit harder to pay attention for details and stuff. So that's kind of one downside. The seat motion is kind of cool. The water's fine, but the wind effects are very jarring and just right in your ear. You got the bucket? Nice. Are just right in your ear. So yeah, I've never gotten a movie like specific popcorn bucket. Loop, yeah. You're in Superman right now. I hope you're having fun. I will see it eventually. But I don't feel like some urgent need to see it immediately. But yeah, I will see it in the next week or so. Hey, welcome. Yeah, the 3D, well, 40x did kind of... It was weird. Sometimes it made the characters look like miniatures and stuff. Yeah, those wind effects, though. Hey, Luke, maybe we will still be streaming once you're out of the theater. I don't know how long the Superman movie is. 2 hours, 9 minutes? There's a chance. The thunder will probably not hurt you, Mr. Beast First. I almost just called you Mr. Beast. That's really funny. Because I was saying Mr. Loophole at the same time. So, yeah. Anyway, I saw the movie first time. And the thing is, when I left the theater, I felt a little bit disappointed. Excuse me. I was just like, that's it? That was it? This is the movie that I thought about every single day for the past 500 plus days. And that was it? You have, like, you have the perfect storm of characteristics to make this an amazing movie. And that was it? Really? Overall, I think the movie is good. I think it's enjoyable. I think it's a very fun movie. And it is the movie of all time. Yeah, Beast First, we better be seeing some Mr. Dodo hosted challenge videos to the other YouTubers pretty soon. And I actually won a phone from Mr. Beast like a year ago. A Samsung. But I already had a phone that was better, so I sold the Samsung. And I got money. And bought a custom lightsaber from Saber Trio. Yeah, so the movie was pretty fun. There were but one of the things that annoys me most with a movie is missed opportunity. Like, you can have a movie that's bad, and I'm like, oh, I understand. Like Jurassic Park 3. Jurassic Park 3 is not that great of a movie, critically speaking. Because, the thing is, like, obviously it had a rush production, director change, mid-production, inferior budget to the previous, I believe. I believe its budget was lower than The Lost World, or at least adjusted for inflation. I take that back, because they wasted a lot of budget. But it feels lower budget, because of all the production issues. The dinosaurs don't look as good as The Lost World, by a long shot. I would say they also don't look as good as Jurassic Park. The Lost World is almost 30 years old, and it's the best dinosaurs I've ever looked on the big screen. Which is kind of crazy. So, yeah. It's kind of annoying. We got Gareth Edwards, David Cope writing the script. I'm going to be honest, from my impressions on this, David Cope was a big hype factor for this movie. He kind of sold. And I feel like a lot of the problems come from him, and I'll get to that in a minute. Let's see what else did he write. Oh, dang. Okay. Let's see, we got... Most of these movies I've never heard of. Did he wrote Spider-Man? No way. David Cope wrote Spider-Man? Did he write Spider-Man 2? Co-writer. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so he's really hit and miss. Wow. I don't know most of these. This is definitely a big... What? That's a choice. You're gonna make 5th Indiana Jones and you bring back the guy who wrote Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I've listened to David Cope talk, and it's interesting, and he has some respect for the franchise, which is good. And I feel like there's many worse writers they could have chosen. But I'm gonna be honest. I feel like they brought him on as a hey, what if we as a publicity thing. Oh, he wrote Zathra. That's actually a decent kids movie. It's pretty good, actually. It's better than Jumanji, honestly. Maybe. Yeah, it is. So, do I agree with your review? Did you post a review? I didn't know that. Hang on. Yoink. Oh, it was a post, wasn't it? Oh, I didn't read that whole thing, to be honest. I haven't really looked at many people's reviews because I'm kind of paying attention to just thinking about my own experience in the movie. I don't feel like I need the reviews because I pretty much know what I think about this movie, and I've digested it really well and broken it down really well, that I don't think I need input from other people in particular. I've listened to I've talked to a couple people about it, but I was kind of waiting for this live stream to let the movie sink in, which I'm glad I did, and that I didn't do this right on the second. Because this would have been a different review. Sorry if I sound negative, by the way, because I do like the movie overall. I will be buying a DVD copy, as with the others, and I will probably watch it 1,000 times, as with the others. But I did initially leave the theater feeling somewhat disappointed. because for a variety of reasons. One, the writing. I was really, really, really happy. If any of you saw my first Rebirth video, or when we were still getting news, or have read any of my posts about it, when we were first hearing about this, I was so happy when I heard the initial synopsis. Like, that was like an amazing day. It was like, they're actually fixing it. They're fixing the whole thing. And they're making it, welcome Bill. They're going back to not this stupid mainland plot, which I get a lot of people like it. But I think it is unentertaining and kind of very stupid and just very silly. And I have not seen anything from the Jurassic franchise to make me think otherwise. I don't find it to be an intriguing idea at all. Maybe another franchise could do it okay, and it would be mildly interesting. But, the Velocipaster did it better. I'm just joking. But, yeah, that was it. It was just a little bit... Yeah, that was a very exciting element. Sorry I'm talking really slow and losing my thoughts. I'm trying to organize this a little bit so I can maybe post this as a video later, because I know a lot of people wanted to hear my thoughts and people don't like to go back and watch live streams, but I don't want to do any editing. So, I'm gonna, as a backdrop... Wait, can I live stream my own live stream? I'm trying to organize this a little bit so I can... Hang on. Is this about to do a... No, it's not. That was silly. Wait, this is weird. Look how much delay there is. Right, here we go. I'm just gonna put the trailer on loop as a backdrop. On silent. And no captions. Go away. The thing is about this movie, I feel like normally when I go to a movie that's not a particularly well-written movie, I enjoy it while I'm in the theater. I'm at least having a ton of fun with it. And then I leave the theater and I'm like, okay, that was kind of trash. But, that tends to... For this movie, that wasn't the case. I wasn't trying to break apart the movie or anything. I'm not a film critic. I like to have fun with movies, and compared to most people, I tend to be fairly optimistic on my reception of them. I can enjoy a poorly made movie, but for this one, that wasn't really the case. There were so many things, like every 30 seconds, that jumped out at me, like, how did this make it to the final cut? That's the one thing with missed opportunities. There's so many missed story opportunities, and I'll get to what I think the best rewrite of this movie that would be. That, quite simply, would be so much better. Yeah, sorry if you hear people talking in the background. I can't change that. So, yeah, the thing is, I lost my train of thought again. Yeah, I'll get to my rewrite. The thing with missed opportunity is you have hundreds of people, at least, probably thousands, working on this movie. You have very smart people. You have people who clearly have respect for the franchise. If you listen to David Cope or Gareth Edwards talk, I don't have to agree with them on everything, but clearly they have a respect for this movie, and with all these people working on it. And to be honest, even though the production was fairly rushed, they had a pretty good production as far as we know. There's no reason that this was like they should have had any production problems. They didn't have to make this movie so quickly. If they felt like they needed more time, they would have just given themselves more time. Yeah. So, hang on, I want to see how different the Titanosaurs are. Wow, they changed them a lot. Yeah, anyways. There's so many missed opportunities. This movie could have so easily been so good, and it's all the story. The story is the issue, and there are production issues too. This is probably maybe the biggest thing that irked me. Is everybody talked about how good of a director Gareth Edwards is, and he has made some very good films. I have not been able to watch The Creator, but I've heard it's very good and it seems quite interesting to me. I've heard Monsters is decent for what it is. I love Godzilla 2014. It's my second favorite monster movie of all time after Godzilla Minus One, and which is just the best monster movie. Yeah, so hang on, what was I literally just talking about? Like 4 seconds ago. I was yeah, Gareth Edwards. I've heard good things about Creator, Monsters. Rogue One is amazing. One of the best Star Wars movies. I don't understand any of the complaints I've heard people say about it, and they all seem fairly empty complaints to me, and more of just like this isn't my kind of movie kind of thing. So, I'm going to be honest, the cinematography in this movie is quite good, and within the first few minutes, I could tell this is very different from any Jurassic movie I've ever seen before. It's a totally new style. It is properly a rebirth. The whole marketing has been like, we're bringing back the Jurassic Park era of stuff. This is kind of a... We're bringing back the Jurassic Park era. They released all this stuff. We're going back to Jurassic Park. It's like the original Jurassic Park. It's like every single thing. They go on and on and on and on and on about this. But I felt like that wasn't really the point of the movie, and that's also not what they do. This movie, as we can see reflected in the logo, we have the Jurassic World blue, the Jurassic Park yellow, but also the yellow is the sunrise, and it could be interpreted as the sunrise replacing the blue of the Jurassic World logo, or it could be interpreted as a rebirth mixing them. It's not really much of a rebirth if you're just going back, that's just a regression. So I feel like this movie does a good job at having something for everyone. A lot of people have said this feels very Jurassic Park in style, this feels very The Lost World in style, this feels very Jurassic Park 3 in style. I did not get that whatsoever. This feels nothing like, especially The Lost World to me. Jurassic Park 3, story-wise, yes, it is quite similar in its overall structure, because of its simplicity, because Jurassic Park 3 was so simplified and cut down. This movie did not need to be, by the way. And it's not Jurassic Park style. I didn't particularly want it to be Jurassic Park style. It has something for everyone. It has something for Jurassic World fans. It has something for Dominion fans, quote unquote. It has stuff for original Jurassic Park fans. It has something for the newer generation, so on and so forth. This movie has something for everyone, and it does a good job on that. And, so yeah. Back to directing. Everyone says Gareth Edwards is so good. They always say, when this was first coming out, everyone was like, oh, Gareth Edwards is so good because he's so good with scale, which he does a great job, especially in Godzilla 2014. That's probably the most notable. It does look like a setting sun because when the logo appears, it kind of fades the whole thing, but that's just so you can read the words. As we see the whole logo pop up, it is initially rising, and that's also the way that the symbolism makes sense. Setting sun doesn't make that much sense. And also this movie has a shot of a rising sun, but I don't believe it has one of a setting sun. which is random, but still. Honestly, I'm going to say I did not like the logo. I think I said this before. I did not like the logo when it was first announced, and I do still think... hang on. Honestly, might be... Oops, sorry. Why is this already filled out? Have I filled this out before? I don't think I have. Maybe I have. Oh well, this doesn't have Rebirth. Never mind. I was gonna see if there was one with the logos. Anyway, logos. Yeah, might be my least favorite. It looks like a Jurassic World Evolution 2 DLC logo, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I think it's better than Fallen Kingdom. Yeah, it's probably better than Fallen Kingdom. I actually don't really dislike the Fallen Kingdom logo, but maybe this is a little... No, it's my least favorite logo. Yeah, it just is. So... yeah. Directing. Cinematography, very good, very different, and I did like it. At first, it was a little bit off-putting, but by the end of the movie, I do like the cinematography. However, the scale, it's very, 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 very bad. The, also, all of his other movies, Rogue One's great. I honestly think that this is not a thing that Gareth Edwards is good at. I think that those other movies were good at it. And the dinosaurs, obviously, there's times in the other movies where it is not perfect, especially when you're transitioning from an animatronic to a CGI creature. Like in the original Jurassic Park, there's some bits where it looks a little bit awkward. That said, it's so off, and it's not. In the other movies, you can mostly ignore it because the animals look approximately the right size, but not this movie. In one shot, the T-Rex is about 40 feet long, and then in the next shot, there's literally a shot where it looks like it is at least Brachiosaurus size. It is 80 to 90 feet long. I am not joking or exaggerating. It just is, and it was like, no way. Like that shot, it's like 60 feet right there. What's going on? There it looks fine. There it looks fine. That's a T-Rex, yeah. Even the first dinosaur we see in the movie, the Apatosaurus. Oh, by the way, obviously, spoilers for this whole thing. Yeah. The very first dinosaur we see, the Apatosaurus, is Amphicoelius fragilis size. It is at least 150 feet. It's crazy. At first I didn't notice it that bad, but then when the people are walking by its head, I immediately thought of Jurassic World, the shot where basically Owen is about the size of the Apatosaurus' head. I mean, like his torso is, which is about right. In this movie, the Apatosaurus' head is like 7 feet tall. What is going on? It makes no sense. Okay, and then we have, aside from the T-Rex, and there's the big one, the D-Rex. I'm pretty sure the D-Rex must canonically be a shapeshifter. Obviously, the Mosasaurus is famous for having done this in the past, but that's kind of just a thing where we just accept it for that one creature. But everything in this movie is just negligent, and it's so obvious. Like it stands out to someone who's not trying to pay attention to it. The D-Rex is about the size they state it to be in many of the shots, about 50 feet. Well, 47, so they say. And then there's a shot where it picks up a helicopter with one hand. That helicopter is at least 35 feet. It's probably closer to 50. Oh, sorry, I didn't loop this, did I? What's going on there? It's, the D-Rex's teeth should be, somewhat larger than a T-Rex's teeth. Because its head is somewhat larger, maybe 30%. Like, wait, I'm going to go for comparison to this shot. I want you to compare the size of this guy to its teeth. And you can argue it's grown some, but in many of the shots, in this scene, it does not look like it has grown. How big is that tooth? Maybe this big. When it grabs onto the helicopter, its teeth sink in. They are about this wide and about 2 to 3 feet long. It's ridiculous. And so inconsistent. Also, the whole thing with the helicopter, that made no sense whatsoever, and I don't mind a little bit of rule of cool suspension of disbelief, but like, it just looked silly, and I know it should have hit like oh, that was cool, stupid kind of moment, but it didn't. And I'm tired of having to constantly make the excuse of cool, stupid for every single thing in the movie. It's fine sometimes, but when you have to do it to enjoy the movie constantly, it's going to make me not enjoy the movie that much. So, then, yeah, you're right. Look at the size of his hand next to the person. This scene, at least you have the argument that D-Rex has grown, but in most of the shots, it does not look like it has substantially. Yeah, see, he grabs him. No, later on, he grabs a full-on helicopter with that same hand. What is going on? Okay. So, anyways, yeah, it may have grown some, but, like, it didn't grow 500 times bigger. I actually saw someone scale it, and it's like the D-Rex is like 200 feet in that shot. It's ridiculous. So, we'll get to the mutants more later, but the scale is very, very off, and it really threw me off a whole lot. Like, just constantly throughout the movie, which was not very fun. Because I like to be able to be immersed in a movie. And also, later, the Titanosaurus too. Oh, we'll get to the spoken scale in just a minute, because, geez. The, what was I saying? The Titanosaurus are absolutely gigantic. It's not that hard, guys. You just keep the CG model in scale with the other things in this environment. You have $150 million. You're paying people so much money, so many 3D designers, and you're just negligent about it. Why? It's not cooler. It's really just not. And, yeah, that made me quite sad. And then the spoken scale. This is a script issue. I will never understand how this made it to the final cut. Part of the job of this movie is to do science education. This is the only exposure to dinosaurs that a large portion of the public gets. Which, by the way, this movie's doing really well in the theater. Which I'm glad for. Even if the reception is not entirely positive, making money is good. Because that means that we get more movies. Hopefully better movies. Hopefully, like, really good movies. Because I've heard a lot of people saying that you can't make a good Jurassic Park movie anymore. That it has been done. Jurassic Park is done, and this franchise is being milked. I disagree. I entirely disagree. I don't think that the full potential of the Jurassic franchise has been explored. I'll get to what I think the future best paths are in just a moment. We'll also be doing lore and timeline, and I'll be talking about all the awesome stuff in a movie in just a second and going through the movie scene by scene. But, yeah. Anyways, the scale. How did this make it to the scripts? 11 tons. 11 tons. What? The Titanosaurus weighs 11 tons. And also, see if I can find it. I believe Titanosaurus was after this. Nope, never mind. Let me find it. That's not it either. Dang it. They really have posted so much stuff for this movie. Jeez. Oh, maybe I'm just blind. Oh well, anyway, there's this thing on here where they say the Titanosaurus is 14 tons. Which, if you're gonna be wrong, can you at least be consistently wrong? It's not that hard to get it wrong twice. What trailer do you guys want? Oh, that looks like a great one. Okay, so, oh yeah, Bill from Idaho. That was awesome. I'm glad I got to take back my home state. What was I talking about? I was talking about the scale. 11 tons. Come on, guys. One, the whole thing is the Titanosaurus is the biggest sauropod they've yet synthesized. Then why is it not? If it is 11 tons, that thing is entirely just air sacs. And, how does that make it in the script? Anyone with an eye can see that that is not the case. Like, what? It's... The other movies don't do this. I've complained about this, and other people said, no, they get the scale wrong all the time. They never do to this degree. Obviously, we have slightly discongruous information between marketing and the actual movies. 11 tons. That animal weighs like 90. 90 tons would be my estimate, at least. If it's the size it appears in some of the shots, it's like 450. But the actual given stats for the Titanosaurus, which does... They say it's like 50 feet tall, but then also other places say it's 70 feet tall, but in the movie it's like 100 and something feet tall. I don't know. We're going to say if it's like the actual size of Titanosaurus, which is sort of not a real thing, it's like, what, like 80s? Yeah, it's like 80s, which is so weird. And the Mosasaurus too. They say it is like, I think I think they say it's 12 tons on their marketing. 12! That Mosasaurus is 100 feet long. In the same thing, they say it is 100 feet long and 12 tons. It has the proportions of a real Mosasaurus, approximately. In fact, it's a little bit heavier because it's quite chunky to an excessive degree. But the Mosasaurus, if we're saying it is 100 feet long, which is about what it appears to be within this movie, a real Mosasaurus weighs 15 tons and is 50 feet long. So an 100-foot Mosasaurus would thusly weigh 120 tons. It's not that hard. You have thousands of people, including on the marketing team, making this movie, and you end up with these completely, obviously making no sense stats. Oh, and the Mutodons, too. The Mutodons apparently weigh 16 times as much as the Kets, and apparently weigh 8,000 pounds, which is visibly not the case in the movie. That's how much an Asian elephant weighs. No, that's how much an African forest elephant weighs. The Mutodons aren't even that big. 8,000 pounds. No flying animal ever has even approximately reached 8,000 pounds. What's going on? Oh well. It's okay. I can look back past it and have fun with the movie. Whatever. The Kets is good. The T-Rex seems to be okay. The Spinos are small, but I think that's intentional. The Spinos are 40 feet in this movie, which, whatever. And, yeah. That sure was a movie. Also, there's some discontinuity between many of the shots, especially in the Spino chase sequence. One of the Spinos just straight up disappears. Yeah. Oh well. Those were very annoying things to me. And, oh, the D-Rex. I forgot to talk about the D-Rex. The D-Rex is said to weigh 10 tons and is 47 feet long. That means it weighs the same as the Giga, or the same as the Camp Cretaceous Spino. In fact, that makes it slightly lighter than the Camp Cretaceous Spino. Looking at it, and using our brains and eyes, we can tell that that thing weighs about twice that much, at least. At least twice that much. Looking at the size chart, there's no way it weighs 1 ton more than the T-Rex, which Rexy was stated to be 9 tons, and the Rebirth Rex is at least a little bit heavier than that. So how is the D-Rex barely heavier than the T-Rex in this movie when it is big enough to pick up a helicopter? What? Anyways, let's go to all the good stuff about this movie, which thankfully is a lot. I did answer your question earlier. Most of the animals didn't get enough screen time. To be honest, I liked the screen time of most of the animals. Ile Saint Hubert is, I don't know if that's how you say it. Ile Saint Hubert, I don't know, is a great location. It is just an absolute playground of, what, 70 tons? The D-Rex? The D-Rex doesn't weigh 70 tons, it's 20,000 pounds. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, so, geez, there's a lot to talk about with this movie. Let's get to the better stuff. Let's start off with, the D-Rex is not 70 tons, it's 10. Well, not actually, it's gotta be more than that. But, allegedly 10. So, yeah, good stuff. Characters. Let's start with the characters. Honestly, as simple as the plot is, most of the characters I like. A lot of people have said they feel like real people, which to me they don't. However, they do better than the Jurassic World franchise generally did, even though its story is much worse. My favorite character by far in the movie is Dr. Henry Loomis. I want him to be in the next movie. His actor is very charismatic. He's very fun. He was actually the character I was most excited for when this movie was like coming out, when I was seeing the trailers and stuff. For some reason, I don't know why. He just feels very much like a Jurassic Park character. Not as in one who'd be in the original movie. He just feels like he fits in this franchise. He feels like a good, solid Jurassic Park guy. Like, yeah, he's just really cool. And he's very funny too. Like, his actor did a great job playing him. He exactly played the really cool nerd really well, and I very much enjoyed his portrayal in the movie. Such a fun character. Like, my favorite joke in the movie, which was kind of ruined a moment later, was when they're in the swamp and he's talking to Duncan, and Duncan says he wants to die in the water and not in the jungle. And Henry says that he wants to be buried in a silt stream in fast-moving water. And I laughed out loud at that in the theater, and I don't think anyone else got the joke. And I think it would have been really funny if they left it at that and Duncan just looked confused. But, they didn't. He goes on to say that, immediately after, he's like, explains that's your best chance of being fossilized. Which I think it would have been better if they just left it at that and showed that he's not the best at communicating with other people, which would have been really funny and relatable and very fun. He's definitely, to me, the most relatable character in the movie. And also, if they hadn't explained that, you know what would have happened? People who didn't know what they were talking about would have then gone home and looked it up, and they would have learned about fossilization. That's what these movies can do really well, is make people ask good questions. And so provide this very Hollywood entertainment at the same time. Tons of movies are good at that. However, otherwise, his, the science, he delivers it very well. His science gobbledygook is not gobbledygook at all, it's just absolute nonsense. And I do wonder how it got into the script. They should give Steve Buscemi a little bit more sway on this movie, because it could so easily be so much better. It doesn't make the movie not fun to add other stuff. Honestly, yeah, I wouldn't mind being fossilized. And, what was I saying? Just sell your bones. Yeah, it was... The humor was actually delivered pretty well for me most of the time in this movie. I laughed at most of the jokes. They did some pretty good comedic timing. One of their rules when they were making this movie was humor is oxygen, which doesn't mean you need it constantly. It means that it helps break up the scenes, and they do it pretty well. I remember probably the peak of kinda humor for this movie was Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, because Beast First, please don't clip that. And what was I saying? Sorry, I keep losing track of my own thoughts. Yeah, characters. The comedy was pretty good. They did not adhere to their other rules at all, whatsoever. One, their other rules that we heard of, their commandments for making a Jurassic movie, is all real science. All real science? Then tell me, what is this? What am I looking at? What do you mean? They're so negligent of the science in this movie, which a Jurassic movie does not need to do, and it is so easy to not do that. Yet they are anyways. All right, thanks for dropping in, Bill from Idaho. Good to see you at the stream. They're so negligent of the science, which they do. It's so easy to just not do that. But whatever. It's okay. I can still enjoy the movie. And then his other rule, no retcons. We'll get to the lore later. Technically, the movie doesn't directly retcon anything except for the Mosasaurus design. By saying that is the same Mosasaurus that was the Jurassic World Mosasaurus, which is weird because it would have been pretty easy to not have it as Mosasaurus. And this does lead to one line that has very heavily implications for the lore, which we'll get to in a moment. But, the animals in Rebirth acted like actual animals. I'll get to what I think about that in a minute, because I have a lot to say about that. They say it's the same Mosasaurus, that it was the engine Mosasaurus, but that's a direct retcon. Otherwise, I don't think the movie directly retcons anything. However, extra canon material has been retconned and deleted to an... it retconned the 5 deaths. What do you mean? Extra canon material has been extensively retconned. All of the websites are gone. Beastverse, I don't understand what you're talking about. At all. So, yeah, we'll get to the lore in a minute, but I'll keep talking about characters. We have, of the main trio on the mission, Henry is by far my favorite. He's the most real, the most relatable, the funniest, the best at action. I like how he's competent at action and is able to do all these cool things. And yet he's not Owen, which I actually like Owen in Jurassic World and how over-the-top competent he is. He's fine being there. I actually really like how he was in the first Jurassic World movie. Not in Fallen Kingdom and Dominion. Like, very much not so. But that is a longer rant. The, other characters. Zora is fine, I guess. She's just kind of there. She doesn't do that much. I mean, Scarlett did a pretty good job playing her, but she was kind of just in the movie. I'm having a struggle to think of any way the mission would have not worked if she wasn't there. Like, it pretty much would have worked out. And, her character doesn't really have an arc. Neither does Henry, but he has the potential for good arcs if he's being set up for a part of a trilogy. So, yeah. Duncan is cool. Duncan's cool. He's fun. Mahershala Ali did a great job with him. He had a tiny bit of an arc. I like that he didn't die. I actually didn't mind the trick death. It made good sense, and I feel like it would have been less satisfying if he didn't die. Honestly, wouldn't have cared. No, that is not true, Beastverse. So... where was I? Duncan's cool. Krebs is good. He was a little bit like just the corporate guy, and I feel like he had more potential for depth. But honestly, he didn't feel too, I've seen the same character 20 times before. He definitely had more potential. The movie is 2 hours and 14 minutes long, yet it feels very short. It feels like an hour and a half. Except for the exposition. The exposition somehow moves incredibly quickly to a degree that they ignore a lot of the details of the story. And yet it feels like forever and ever, and they don't get to the island forever. I don't know how. The first act and the third act I found to be very poorly structured. The second act was pretty good. The second act I have by far the fewest complaints. So, then we get to, aside from them, Zora's character, by the way. She's a mercenary. Sort of. She kills people for money, but she's just kind of very lighthearted and funny and is supposed to be suffering from PTSD, except in these very awkwardly written character moments where she's suddenly sad and then talks to people and doesn't really have any... There's no point to the conversation, really. It reminds me of Jurassic World Chaos Theory in some ways, and then has, like, basically no impact on anything. It was very, a little sad. I think her character had a lot of potential. I don't really care if I see her or Duncan in the other movies again or not, but I definitely want to see Henry appear again. Obviously, we won't be seeing Krebs again, but I would like to see more Parker Jennings. Then we have the family. I really like most of the Delgados. The dad is very good. No, that was not retconned. Beast first. I'll explain in just a moment. So, the dad's very good. He feels like a real person. He plays the dad character very well. I'm gonna imagine that there is a different Cape Town and that he's not sailing that little sailboat all the way across the Atlantic Ocean and probably killing all of those people on the boat. But then we see the oldest daughter, her character is literally nothing. You could just cut her from the movie and come up with some excuse for Xavier being there. Like, her character is just literally nothing. So forget it. I don't even remember what her name is. And a lot of people forget names of characters very often. I don't do that. I remember her character's names really well, and I cannot remember what her name is. Yeah, I literally can't remember her name. Xavier, he actually has an arc, even though it's pretty simplistic, and I think it could have been improved upon pretty easily. It's pretty good. He's honestly one of the best written characters in the movie. He's not the most enjoyable presence, but he's not supposed to be. He has a couple of actually funny moments, like in the forest scene, which I'll get to in a minute. But then, yeah, no, Beast first. You're not right, and the youngest daughter, she's pretty good. Honestly, one of the better kids in the Jurassic franchise. For some reason, she kept reminding me of Dora the Explorer, I think because of the backpack, and I was very much laughing at that. But honestly, maybe one of the best, like, kid characters in the franchise. Dolores was actually fine. I was very afraid of the over-personified dinosaurs like we have with the Velociraptors in Jurassic World, which, oh geez. And then they don't actually really do that. It feels like an animal with slightly unrealistic behavior just to move the movie along, and I'm like, okay, cool. You know, they gotta sell their cute toys, they're gonna get the kids to the movie, the kids who like Jurassic World. Fair compromise. Cool enough. Aqualops is fine. Microceratus better, but cool. So, also, Beast first, even if that were the case, how would that retcon the 5 deaths? Speaking of which, there are 5 deaths in this movie. Huh. And, yeah. So, I just realized playing this trailer is probably going to get my stream taken down. Where's the teaser trailer? Oh well. I'm just going to open this. So, where was I? Characters. So yeah, the Delgados are very enjoyable. I like their arcs. They honestly sometimes they're as entertaining as the mission storyline. And I would have watched a movie just about them going to the island, even though that's even simpler. At least it doesn't have as many story flaws. Yeah, I think that's all the major characters in this movie. If I'm forgetting them, that's probably for a reason. Which I don't mind having that smaller cast, and they still had some good people who could die, and their deaths were very good. Let's go through a scene by scene now. Okay, so first scene of the movie, we have the D-Rex lab scene, which is why I pulled up the soundtrack. I have to say, why is this? Okay. I really don't like the mutants. My opinion on this has not changed. I thought maybe they would be doing some cool stuff with the D-Rex, but they just didn't. The mutants were so unnecessary and didn't need to be in the movie. The Mutodons, I see two active viewers. The Mutodons could literally just be velociraptors. And the movie works fine and is cooler and better because the velociraptor design is not only better, but a real animal. And an iconic part of the franchise, which a lot of people complain about the velociraptors not having much content. I don't mind. If the velociraptors don't fit into the script, don't shoehorn them in. I can go a movie without seeing velociraptors, but when you make this magnificent design and you waste it for another, we're doing an Atrociraptor phenomena, which is like in Dominion, where they were like, the Atrociraptor, it's just Velociraptor, but better. And then they act worse and less cool, and is also kind of worse. Yeah. Okay, so the hybrids, also the D-Rex design. Come on, guys. When this was first coming out, people were like, "No, that's totally realistic. That's how mutations work." Of course, it wouldn't work out when they were first trying to create dinosaurs. One, this isn't their first trying to create dinosaurs. They're trying to create hybrids, which makes it a little bit more reasonable. But two, that's not how mutations work. There is no way to get an animal that is shaped like that. This is way less realistic than even the Indoraptor. Because Indoraptor at least is specifically designed, but it still follows a functional body plan. And it follows the theropod body plan, which makes sense. Right? Come on. Yeah. So, the first scene, we get to this lab, we get to see them working on the Mutodon and the Triceratops, which both have two heads for some reason. I was like, come on. We hear some really cool stuff in the background. There's a lot of details to pay attention to. So this is clearly an InGen modern lab taking place in the 2010s. I'll get to the lore discussion of what I think this lab is later on. Then we get to the D-Rex scene. The guy's Snicker bar disables the system. It was a little silly that he had it. It was very clearly product placement. But I will say, it makes no sense that this not only stopped the door from closing, but allowed the D-Rex to escape and also become bulletproof. It was weird. I'm just going to say that. This would have made a lot more sense if the Snicker bar gets pulled into the room. Because it's a clean room, they're clearly all wearing clean suits, it's detected as, hey, this isn't clean, so the doors don't close. Something else simultaneously caused the D-Rex to break out, which would normally not be a problem because it would still be contained. But those doors didn't close because it registered the room as not clean. And that makes so much more sense. And then the guy gets eaten. I thought the performance was pretty good. The dialogue's a little weird. He's like, especially when you see it in the first trailer, but I think when we see it in the action movie, it makes a lot of sense. And I will say, I have a lot of issues with the scene. But the music. I'll talk more about the score of this movie in just a second, but I kind of got chills at this moment when the D-Rex eats the guy. I'm just going to play it. So this is when it's cleaning the window with him. This is where she sees it right there, and she won't open the door with the keys, which was a cool thing. That gave me actual chills in theater both times, especially with that scream, which was done very well. That was such a cool effect, the way it synced with the music. That was peak cinema, and faded into that logo was awesome. That was absolutely awesome. I actually think only the 3 most recent Jurassic movies are the only ones to have that kind of logo physically in the film. Which Dominions was actually okay too, because that was a good music moment. But this is somehow the best bit of music in the entire movie. I'm going to be honest, I am disappointed with the soundtrack of this movie. I am glad that we have moved on from Michael Galancho's, I don't know how you say his last name, score. He did an amazing job with all 3 of his movies. Dominion was definitely the weakest of the 3 soundtracks. He did a fantastic job with the Jurassic World Trilogy score. Joe Johnston did a great and underrated job with Jurassic Park 3, and obviously John Williams is the origin of it all and made the 2 best soundtracks in the franchise by far and large. So, I'm going to be honest, this one was pretty disappointing to me. Most of the music in the movie is very, we just have these strings going with these chaotic scenes, which sometimes works when you do it correctly, but this was just kinda there. Like, and it just goes on, and there's barely any motifs. The only time the music is actually good and serene is when it is literally just the Jurassic Park score. And of course we have moments like this, where the music is very out of place. Oh yeah, we get an ad.
Easy. It's Green Chef. Eating clean
Just forget about these.
complicated. It's
And they jump scare me. This scene was so awkward. I do like the score. I will say overall, I do like the score. It is just so much worse than the others, which Jurassic Park has always had great music, and it's always something I really look forward to. This bit's actually pretty good. I always look forward to the music, but like, why is there no substance here? Why does a small brand video game that released on VR that barely anyone played and is incredibly underrated have a score that was made by a literal just random guy on YouTube that with barely any followers, and is not even allowed to release the score? Release at Universal, please. 10 times better than what Alejandro Desplat is able to do with this movie. No respect to Alejandro, he's a great composer. He does a good job. He seems to have a good history of composition and a good what's it called? People playing the instruments. They're good. And the score is overall pretty good. But it's just disappointing. Which it's just kind of good. Which kind of how I felt about the whole movie. The score is very important to me, if you can't tell. I love the Jurassic Park music. It is some of my favorite music ever. And this is it. But also, we're going on to the next scene. Scene 2, we have the Hans Zimmer could have done the score. That would have been epic, but I don't think this is the right movie. If you're going to bring Hans Zimmer into Jurassic, it needs to be, yeah, there we go, a more serious movie than this. Also, I'm a little bit sad that the opening titles, that's cool, that's pretty cool. I'm a little sad that the opening titles with the slightly remixed version of the opening titles from the original Jurassic Park, that being a far inferior version, is not on the official release, but I'm sure we'll get it eventually once people are able to extract it. And I will say, there are some very good musical Hans Zimmer, if you're going to bring him into Jurassic, it needs to be a more monumental movie than this. Maybe eventually. That would be very cool. Yeah, that would be epic. But there's a lot of good musical callbacks. Alejandro clearly listen to the more niche music of the franchise. There's bits that are very reminiscent of even Jurassic World Aftermath, and I noticed several Jurassic Park Trespasser references. I think I know where one is, if I remember.
Now we gotta go help people customize and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual.
Ah, no, here it is. Liberty Mutual ad.
It's the beauty of creating.
I believe there's a couple here. There's a lot of Trespasser references. That's a motif that shows up some. That's for the mission. It's pretty cool. And it's actually present within the movie. Another problem I had with the music... Oh, there's also some Evolution 1 and 2 references in the music, which is pretty cool. Maybe this isn't the right spot. I don't know. I don't know where it is. There's some Trespasser references. And I will say the music is poorly edited into the movie. There's a couple scenarios that stood out to me that were just really weird for a Jurassic movie. One, when they arrive to the gas station, we have a diegetic music playing from the gas station speakers. I believe it's Time of the Season by the Zombies, I believe. But anyway, this is obviously playing from the gas station speakers. Who cares that you would not be able to hear that from outside the gas station? But this music disappears and fades out immediately because the mutadons appear. The mutadons fly in and it disappears, and to make the scene tense. The music being there did nothing. It made no sense, and then there's no reason in universe that if it is actual music that's playing there, that it would be fading out as soon as the mutadons appear, and it just makes the scene feel silly and takes away from it, in my opinion. They do a similar thing when the Delgados first show up. There's some pop song or whatever playing when they saw the boat, and I honestly thought it was fine when it was just intermingle, and then they do one line of vocals that's very jarring, and then it fades out. And there's some times where the soundtrack that is actually pretty good is edited very poorly and out of sync with the dialogue. I wonder if, when in production, Alejandro was given, what cut he was given of the movie to compose for. Because I have a strange feeling it wasn't the final one, and it led to some weird editing issues. Because clearly this movie was being edited up into its data release. They could have broken the radio. Yeah, but it's not when they get to the gas station, they just land, and it doesn't cut out, it fades out. Unless the radio was in the concrete and takes passive damage. Yeah. Anyways, what was I talking about before I went on the... Oh yeah, we were going scene by scene. Then we get the bridge scene with Money. And this scene was fine. Oh, wait. We got the... Oh, another ad. What's this for? Oh, I see. The next... Okay, cool. The next bit we see is... And honestly, I think the Mutadon scene would have been kind of jarring if you had that music playing the whole time throughout the gas station scene. And I feel like this movie actually managed callbacks pretty well. Well, they did some callback shots. It felt like its own movie, and it was fine. It wasn't too on the nose for me. So then, where was I? Yes, the people are tired of dinosaurs thing. This is something people have always disliked. And in the original Jurassic World movie, which I still think is pretty good, 2015, that is not an actual thing. That is what they say. They say, oh, nobody cares about dinosaurs anymore. We want more money. But the thing is, we can clearly see within the movie that that's what the HR is saying. But that's clearly not the actual case. The whole thing in the movie, that's the whole plot line. It's not just a meta-commentary on Hollywood trying to be bigger and better, which is kind of funny because that's exactly what that movie does and what this movie does. But, nope. They just... Yeah. In that movie, people are not tired of dinosaurs. They love dinosaurs. They have a huge popularity on the park. 20,000 visitors every day. Numbers are still trending upwards over year by year. Of course, you're going to see a decline in the first 10 years. A very slight flattening out of the graph of attendance in the first 10 years of a park being open, because some of the newness is going to be gone, and for something that expensive, you're going to be losing repeat customers. However, it is amazing that they're still making so much money and bringing in more people. There's no reason that people are bored of dinosaurs. We can clearly see throughout the movie, they say the words to their investors, people are bored of dinosaurs, while outside we can see thousands of people clamoring to see them constantly. It's meant to be an irony within the shot itself. And I thought this was fairly obvious within the Jurassic World movie, and I don't understand why people still constantly complain about it to this day. Of course, that makes no sense. Claire's trying to sell the Indominus Rex to the investors. How are they supposed to sell something if nobody wants it? That's I think the only time they directly say that within the movie is that people are bored of dinosaurs, is when she's literally selling Verizon Wireless the Indominus Rex. Like, what? Yeah. It was, that's certainly a conveniently time to break Jukebox Beast first, especially assuming that this has been turning on and off on a day-night cycle for 17 years. Also, the fact that that car still worked is incredible. But I don't care. That's the kind of thing that I can just suspend my disbelief and be like, who cares? It makes the scene work. Whatever. Okay, people are not bored of dinosaurs. That's never actually happened before. In the franchise, people weren't bored of dinosaurs in Fallen Kingdom. They wanted to save them. Everyone wanted to save them. The government felt like they couldn't because it wasn't legal, obviously. And then in Dominion, people aren't bored of dinosaurs either. In fact, they're the least bored they've ever been because they might be outside their house. Maybe, the movie doesn't tell us. And people aren't bored of dinosaurs in Chaos Theory or Camp Cretaceous. They're afraid of them, but they're not bored of them. And then in Rebirth, this is like, okay, this is actually a plot point now. Nobody's bored of dinosaur movies. So there's no meta-commentary. Nobody's bored of real dinosaurs. Why do we need the mutants? They're just the hybrids but worse, and they're not necessarily within the story. The Indominus Rex, while it is a hybrid and it's kind of silly to people who want, no, just good real dinosaurs, which is fair. It's a fair take. At least it is dinosaur shaped, and it is, the story works only because of the Indominus. The whole story is predicated on this idea, and it is a solid idea, and it is solidly written. But this movie does not do that. They just say they're actually bored of dinosaurs, and we have no viewers to the Museum of Natural History, and there's no dinosaurs outside. It's not like people are bored of paleontology because there's real dinosaurs. They're just done with them. What? Nobody's going to be done with dinosaurs for 5 years. And I do understand how people could be very afraid of them in certain areas, but it's a little silly. Especially like 12 tickets to the museum. Come on. Also, in the museum scene, they have some clips from the island playing on the projector in the background, which really threw me off. Like, why are we seeing this here? It makes no sense in the universe, but whatever. Yeah, wait, we have 6 people in the chat now. Where'd all you come from? Here, I'm gonna put the music on, but quietly, so I can talk over it and we have some sound. So, yeah. Anyways, back to the scene by scene. Scene 2 There was a weird CGI moment when they're talking on the bridge that stood out to me. This is a tiny little nitpick, but the water was like taller than the concrete level, which is weird because in real life that would not be the case. In fact, it would be lower. Even if the water was at its absolute highest, you'd probably have a foot of space. That was just a tiny thing, but it did kind of annoy me when I was watching the movie because it looked very weird green screen. And there is some unnecessary green screen done in this movie. And people always talk about how good the visuals look in this movie, and I think generally they do. The island is stunning. It's an amazing location that I want to return to. However, the actual... can you guys hear me fine? Is the music level fine? It sounds loud to me. The actual island, the color grading is a little bit not it for me. I like that they did the color grading. It definitely makes some cool choices. But there is... Yeah, there's no... It just looks off. Even though they filmed on location, it very often looks very green screen to me because it was so edited. And then we get to... Again, I'm saying the soundtrack is good. A little louder? Alright. 20. There we go. Which, by the way, the soundtrack is now on YouTube. And if any of you know, my most popular video was a soundtrack mix I made literally just for myself to listen to, and I didn't think it would get any views, but it got like 30,000. I do plan to make another one, even though I'm not making full videos. I want to make a more updated version, including the Rebirth soundtrack. However, I might wait because I want the Aftermath soundtrack, and I am going to get it. I'm going to contact Universal eventually. You know what? I'm going to do that tomorrow. I will try to contact Universal themselves and get that soundtrack. Anyways, going scene by scene. Now we get to the Natural History Museum. We get our introduction to Henry Loomis, which is absolutely hilarious and a good job. But I'm going to talk more about the plot issues later, so I'm evading that and the whole heart disease thing. But we have... I'm sorry, but those skeletons extract the soundtrack from the game. I would, but the thing is, to do that, I need to basically have the layout memorized and turn down the volume of everything. And I would do that, because I know the game pretty well at this point. However, my headset is broken, and I don't have any friends who have the game. So I've considered literally just like loaning one of my friends' headsets and buying the game on there so I can play through it again and just extract the soundtrack, which is what I will eventually do. But, yeah. And, also, extracting the soundtrack leaves bad quality sound. I want really high quality for this amazing score, and I can pretty easily get it. I just need to actually do that. If Universal does not, if I don't have any way to get it from Universal, I will end up doing that. The skeletons... Jeez, the skeletons were bad. Like, no rigor whatsoever was put into those. And the cats looking like that was a little weird. The cat's design in general is a little weird. Apparently it was supposed to be Thanos, which would have been cool and better and fun. Wait, here it is again. Yeah, that's pretty solid. Alright, Beast First, if you would extract some of that soundtrack, that would be amazing. If you could just do a little bit of it, I would love to hear it. There's plenty of, like, no voiceover playthroughs on YouTube that you could extract it from. If you would do a little bit of it to see how the quality is, that would be pretty cool. So, yeah. From there, But that scene was pretty cool. I like the Natural History Museum scene. I like that this movie is still honoring the previous ones while being its own detached story. That's what I was expecting, and that's what I liked. And, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention the bus goes to Crichton Middle School, which was a fun detail. And then we get to this scene with the market, and we get the dunk head. Which a lot of people have complained about the dunk head being bitten off, but I thought it was kind of cool foreshadowing because it was kind of meant to suggest that the Mosasaur or Megalodon bit it off, which was cool. That whole scene was cool. We got the shot of them watching 1 million years BC. What's WMRTE? I don't know. Yeah, so... Okay, back to where I was. The joke was really funny with them asking for more money, and it made me like both the mercenaries. They were kind of fun, just trying to get Krebs out his money. I can't wait to get to the lore bit, because I kind of want to talk about that. So I'm going to skip through this a little faster. The whole village was very cool. I liked it. That was a solid scene. The boat sequences were a little long. I like having time on water, but I kind of wish it wasn't so grouped together. I don't really know if there's a way to do it within the story. It wasn't, but it was a lot of time before we get to the island, which is a little sad. But I really like the exploration of this whole environment. You know what would have been cool? What if Sanctuary Island is Isla San Hubert? I'll get to that in a moment. That was just an idea I had. Mosasaur attacks the yacht. That was kind of cool. I liked its behavior there. The Mosasaur, it kind of just bumps into it. It's like, what's this thing? Oh, well, and then it swims around. And the Spinos are just kind of following it, having fun in the water, you know? And that is already so disastrous to the family. It was very cool. Makes the dinosaurs feel very powerful and huge. And I liked that scene, and it showed the dad set up his character and Xavier's character pretty cool, pretty well. And by the way, a lot of people have said that they don't like Xavier as a character because he's not likable. Yeah, not all characters need to be likable. And one, he's more likable by the end of the movie. He's not a poor character because he's not likable. If that makes sense. So, yeah, the, Mosasaur attacks the yacht. That was a pretty solid scene. We get this really weird dialogue. The whole bits with the exposition's very, very, very awkward. I'll get to how I think it could have been a little better later on. I like the scene with them discussing to go to the boat. That was pretty cool. That was a solid dialogue scene, honestly. So, boat chase was fine. Hey, welcome, Jay. Oh my gosh, why are you awake? It's like 3 a.m. Yeah, the boat chase was pretty cool. I didn't like the disappearing Spinos. There was some shot discontinuity there, but it was a pretty fun sequence. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. And 3 a.m. Yeah, it's been already like an hour and a half, and I still have a lot more to say on this movie. We're going just kind of scene by scene and saying, like, I really enjoyed that boat chase. It was a good way to end up on the islands. A cool action sequence. Generally, the action sequences are very good. Dominion, as a contrast, it jumps from action to action scene. Dinosaur set piece, dinosaur set piece, dinosaur set piece, and has the humans interacting in very unrealistic ways with them. This movie, it does jump from dinosaur to dinosaur a little bit more than I like myself. But it's see, Beast First, I feel like we don't have to accept that. We're like, it's Jurassic World, it's not going to be accurate. And I would really like if in the broad strokes it was. Hey, welcome to the chat. There's no reason it can't be and still be cool and fun. They need to give Steve Brusatte a little bit more authority on the dinosaur designs. And I will say, the designs are generally pretty good. There's some I like, some I don't. But there's some I like, some I don't. However, you know what I like at this point? Literally, if anyone knows the Jurassic Park arcade machine, what if we just made a movie of that? Literally just Better Fallen Kingdom. That'd be so much cooler. So yeah, the whole boat chase sequence was really cool. Like just high intensity action. It was awesome. Unlike the Minion, it feels like the dinosaurs have actual weight. I will say the dinosaur designs are very good. However, visually, I actually don't like them that much within the movie. They very often don't look right in their environments, and I think it has to do largely with the color grading and their CG model and scale being inconsistent. They don't feel like they're actually there. The OG one from Sega, well, that's not the one I was thinking about. That one's pretty cool too, but I'm thinking about the 2015 one, which I'm very good at, by the way. Okay, so then we get to see some of the island scenery, which it's awesome. I really want to go back to the islands. I'll talk about what I think the island is, again, as I've said, in a minute. Then we get walking in the swamp. I really like seeing this exposure to the jungle scenery. Even though the color grading's not my favorite, it looks pretty good, and it's probably the best looking jungle in the Jurassic franchise we've seen since 1997. I think it looks better than JP3 jungle most of the time. And yeah, his dialogue's a little weird. I like how he talks and references the books. Henry's dialogue has some mistakes and things that scientifically don't make sense, but it was pretty solid. I feel like they took all their ideas for like trying an attempt at a larger message and put it in this one scene. They said some stuff earlier on that like, oh, this movie has an actual message. No, it doesn't. No, it really doesn't. They were like, it goes into philosophical ideas like the original. No, it doesn't. Not at all. Oh, I will mention the Velociraptor scenes, because that's where we are. You know, like I said before, I wouldn't mind just not having Velociraptors in the film. If there's not a way they naturally go in the script, don't shoehorn them in. But if you're going to put them in the movie, do them justice. And yet we get another Atrociraptor phenomena. Here's our better Velociraptors, except they're worse. And in this scene, which is a really funny scene, they start creeping up at him and the Mutodons just swoop down and eat one. Come on. Like, the Mutodons are so much less cool. I'm just saying, the film would be entirely better, and I think the vast majority of audiences would have enjoyed it better if you simply replaced the Mutodons entirely with the Velociraptors, except in the opening lab sequence. And then you replace the Velociraptor with Troodon. That would have been cool. Imagine seeing a little teaser of the Jurassic Park the game looking Troodon. Maybe make them a little more rigorous, but still with the glowing eyes creeping up on Xavier in the jungle. And the Velociraptors jump him. They don't bother with Xavier. They probably would have seen him. But then we get them to be dangerous later on. And that would have been so cool to see the Velociraptors. I'm hoping when we go back to Isla San Hubert later on, we'll get to see them better. And at least we'll get to see them clearly in Jurassic World Evolution 3. Right? Also, I want to mention that the female Velociraptor is Tiger Stripe, which is cool. And so I will say, this island, they do a very good job at having a lot of creatures that are just not there. Well, they're there. Yeah, the pee joke was really funny. And like, why is it always Velociraptor that gets disrespected? For the last, like, at least 3 movies. And, yeah, then... Sorry, my throat's a little dry. I'm talking for an hour and a half. I'm actually going to go get some water real quick. I will be right back. Hang on just a second. I'm back. Whew. Yeah, so Velociraptors could have been better. I feel like even though a lot of people say, oh, all the animals don't get the screen time I want, that's kind of the idea. I'm just saying that to make the island feel alive, you cannot give focus to every creature. And the thing is, that means when they make a new movie and they need to sell new toys, that means they need new creatures. And a lot of those creatures are never going to get the scenes they deserve. But that is better than just having 5 animals that get 20 minutes of screen time each. That it makes the island feel alive. And it is alive. Isla San Hubert is alive. It is a true prehistoric sanctuary. Such a great Jurassic Park setting. They do a good job with that. The Velociraptor just being there, even though I think it would have been better if it was Troodon, which was rumored for this film. The Ankylosaurus are just there. The Parasaurolophus is just there, which a lot of people said, why is it the Dominion Parasaurolophus? That makes no sense. Why would they be on this island? I actually think that the Parasaurs we see in Dominion obviously aren't the same Parasaurs from Jurassic World, and the assumption was they were cloned by some private company, but we have a full-scale herd. So where'd they come from? I think they were probably actually exported from Isla San Hubert, which we see at least one helicopter has crashed. Surely other people have been here at some point. I think when dinosaur poaching and stuff was at its maximum between Fallen Kingdom and Dominion. Yeah, the Velociraptor is a thing that they can always just come up with some other small dinosaur and market it as the better Velociraptor, but it's just not, and nobody thinks they're cooler or better. To make them seem more threatening or whatever. It's even bigger than last time. Whatever. But, yeah. Anyways. Oh, also I want to go back to the scene that the soundtrack is playing for right now. I thought it was really funny that Duncan was like, Zora, that's so horrible that you missed your mother's funeral, when she literally kills people for her job. Which is definitely more horrible. Yeah, I think we have just the creature in the swamp, which doesn't biologically seem to make much sense. I would have liked to have seen some, like the Dilophosaur. I like that it just pops up for a second. I wish that they had more herbivorous dinosaurs in this movie. Like, what are there? 2? 3 if you count just 2. 2, right? Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Like, the island would feel so much more alive. What if, mixed in with the Titanosaur, just in the distance you see Mosasauri, or Edmontosaurus would be cool, because we know they were cloned at some point, but we've never seen them on screen. Or, Triceratops even. You know, just throw them in there. I'm glad the Anki is there. Like, the Diabloceratops was supposed to be in this movie. That would have been cool. What if we just saw Carnotaurus walking around in the background? That would have been cool. I'm just joking. Carnotaurus, the camouflaging Carnotaurus is clearly in the movie. It's in, all of the scenes. Oh, you know what would have been cool? If it was just randomly in the scene with Xavier peeing, and it wasn't for any foreshadowing whatsoever. The camouflage Carnotaurus just show up and eat the, Wait a minute. I've just had an idea. Sorry for the background noise. We have a broken door. What if the original intent was for camouflaging Carnotaurus to be in this movie, and they were the original Mutadons? That would have been cool. So, the first scene, the Velociraptors were always meant to be killed. The Velociraptors are killed in the forest by camouflaging Carnotaurus that don't see Xavier. And then the gas station scene, like in the Lost World novel, is the camouflaging Carnotaurus. That would have been kind of crazy and way cooler than the Mutadons. And would also be a perfect opportunity because I actually, even though I don't like the mutants very staunchly, the mutations of the dinosaurs is cool because you're able to have paleo-accurate dinosaurs and then introduce these cool mutations that make them, that give them rule of cool features that you can clearly say, hey, this isn't real, but we're making it cool by making it able to do this cool thing. So the camouflaging Carnotaurus would have been a perfect example, and it would have been continuous with the lore. That would be epic. What went wrong? Oh well, we have Mutadons now, I guess. Cool. Just kidding. But anyway, back to the scene by scene. Boat chase, they arrive on the islands. Pretty cool. Flasher scene, swamp. We get the pistol and the helicopter, which look really cool. There were some very nicely framed shots in this movie. All the island shots look pretty great. Then we get the Titanosaur scene, which was nice. I liked the long grass being back. The Titanosaur's design was... I like it, overall. Obviously, we have the size constantly changing, and there are way too many Titanosaurs. And I already talked about the 11 tons. I'm not going to do that again. See, I was prepared for having monsters, but that doesn't mean I like it. Like, I still think it's a very silly choice. Like, believe it or not, dinosaurs can be monsters and animals and spectacular at the same time, as David Attenborough says in the Prehistoric Planet trailer so eloquently. Yeah. Then, the Titanosaur scene, honestly, I really liked the acting from Henry here. It would have been more impactful if this was the first animals he sees, but I guess they are the first like ones on the land at least, which is cool enough. Also, I wish the creature in the swamp had been a Titanoboa, even if we didn't see it clearly. That would have been cool. I like the amphibious creature we see. I like that Pteranodon is in the movie. I don't think most people even noticed. Pteranodon is in this movie. Was Titanosaurus' tail that long? That's a great question because we don't even know what Titanosaurus is. But there were sauropods with very long tails like that. I don't know if any were quite that long, but there were some in that ballpark. But potentially. And his second favorite Jurassic character ever. Wow. I really like him, but he's definitely not my second favorite ever. He's definitely my favorite in this movie, though. So, yeah, that scene was pretty cool. The cut's a little weird. It makes the DNA collecting mission feel a little too rapid. But it was fine. The second act on its own is just pretty solid. If you just had the second act, I would enjoy that much more than the film overall. So then we get to the T-Rex scene. I love the way they do this action in these movies. They perfectly have blended the Jurassic World style and Jurassic Park style action in a very effective way, and that shines through. The T-Rex is not 25 meters. They say 14.5 meters. There are Pteranodons flying by the River Rex scene. However, those seem to be the Jurassic World Pteranodons, or at least something very similar to them, while the ones we see just around, the little one, is the Lost World Pteranodon, which is interesting. T-Rex is said to be 14.5 meters. And, yeah, the Ignore Nathus is fine. It looks a little green screeny. That's one of my problems with the Titanosaurus. You deeply disliked it? Yeah, sorry. I can see how. As a major Jurassic fan, there's a lot of things I did not like about it, but I definitely didn't deeply dislike it. Overall, I found it enjoyable. Thanks for dropping into the stream, Haybeck. And it does look shrunk down. It doesn't look like a baby, and I get that you could like do like the tiny elephant genetically engineered thing, but it was a little much. I wouldn't have minded if it was like Dimorphodon size. That would have been cool. But you could have just put a Dimorphodon. That would have been cool. Imagine if they just throw Rhamphorhynchus in the film randomly with like some reptilian pattern. That would have been cool. Isn't it a baby? I'm hoping not, because it has the exact proportions of an adult, and also the baby shouldn't even be that small. Unless it's like a brand newborn. But, yeah, that Titanosaurus did look very green screen, unfortunately. Many of the dinosaurs do, especially in the wider shots, which I, again, say is largely the color grading's fault. The more I think about it, color grading does things for certain movies, but especially when it comes to dinosaur stuff. Walking with Dinosaurs 2025 is a peak example of this. Keeping it naturalistic always looks significantly better. Yeah, no, the Ignore Nathus is pretty solid. Yeah, so then we get the T-Rex raft scene, which is awesome. The T-Rex looks great, except when it's 85 feet long. Wow, what's your favorite Jurassic World movie? Interesting. In my opinion, we'll get to my ranking in a minute, but in my opinion, this is leagues below Jurassic World 2015. Like, it's not even close. So, yeah, then we get the T-Rex sequence, which is pretty cool. The T-Rex is great. I like the, yeah, we finally got the raft scene, and now Frontier has no excuse to not give us the river tour. Isn't that right? Right? Yeah. Anyways, it's honestly maybe the best scene. I noticed so many people in the theater react, especially the second time I went. The theater was full, and it was the only showing we could get because every theater was packed with booked reservation seats before for like the whole day. So we finally got like enough seats for everyone, and we had to go to a different theater. And everyone like clapped and cheered and was like audibly reacting to the movie, which is pretty rare around here. So yeah, T-Rex river scene, awesome. No notes except that the T-Rex changes size constantly. The disappearing T-Rex, that was awesome. I really wish that had been a theater reveal, and I hadn't seen that in the trailer before. And I will say, it's, I just forgot what I said 3 seconds ago. Ugh, my brain is being weird. Yeah, that is definitely a strange bit. What was I saying? Live streaming. Oh my gosh, what did I say 10 seconds ago? T-Rex scene. Yes, finally River Raft. One of my favorite bits of the book. I wish that disappearing T-Rex had been a theater reveal. It is my fault for looking at everything before seeing all the clips, which a lot of people say they reveal too much. But the thing is, to most people who went to this movie, they saw 1 or 2 trailers. So they did not see too much. We see too much stuff because we look at literally everything they release. And that is unfortunate because we feel like this obligation to for some reason, especially as content creators. Even though I haven't made hardly anything on Rebirth. I discussed the trailer, I made 1 video on the initial news, and I'm making this. And that's it. So, yeah. I will say the music feels very generic sometimes. Yeah. Thank you, Jurassic, for reminding me. Yeah, I did feel a lack of surprises, which is why, for the next movie, I will be avoiding basically basically everything. I am probably gonna not even watch the trailer. I'll have somebody else tell me like the title and like when it releases, so I'll know to go to the movie. But I really want to see what it would be like to just go into the movie entirely blind next time. It would be a very cool experience. And so yeah, that's what I plan to do for the next film. Hopefully it will be better and more dramatic. And obviously I'll see some YouTube video titles from my subscription channels, but I won't watch them. So, yeah, that is my fault for having too much revealed. So I don't blame Universal entirely for that. I do feel movies reveal too much, especially in their initial trailer, which I was fine with because I thought that we were going to have a cool plot, but we didn't. But I'll get to that in just a minute because that is the second to the last thing we're going to talk about on the stream, I think. Less iconic myself. Yeah. Well, actually, I don't blame people for making videos on the Lokiceratops because that is awesome. I don't mind this replacing, like, Chasmosaurus or something. Love Chasmosaurus, but this is an awesome thing, and I really get the hype, and it's very much reminding me of Evolution 2 announcement, and I'm very happy with Species Field Guides back. I hope I don't see that much of a video on literally every single one from literally everybody. I didn't watch any of them because at this point, you know, I can break everything down myself. I don't really... Everybody's excited about it. I don't really need to know anything else, so I don't need to watch multiple several-minute videos. So yeah, then we get to the Ket sequence, which is fantastic. I really like the set piece moving around. It feels a little short, and the ending of the scene, while slightly funny, it did break my immersion, him surviving that fall with seemingly no injury. But it was fine. I would have liked to see a little bit of extension, and there were some really cool bits we could have gotten. Like, what if another Kets had picked up the parachute? That would have been cool. Jurassic Park 3 reference. What if when he has the guy in his throat and the rope still attached, he starts carrying Henry off the cliff, or whoever, somebody else attached to the rope or whatever. You could do some cool stuff with that sequence, but it felt too short and very straightforward, and I felt like I saw everything in... yeah, Jay, that was kind of funny. I felt like I saw everything of that sequence in the trailer. And it would have been nice if they had kept one. I understand they need to, you know, they spend millions of dollars on each of these action sequences. They want to advertise for them. But, Yeah, I did. With the French. At this point, whenever I hear anybody speak French, I think of Jay. Or any mention of Belgium, I'm like, oh yeah, where Jay lives. Cool. And, yeah. Anyways. The, cut sequence... I felt had some missed opportunities as well. I wish they'd kept one action sequence secret for the theater, and the reaction would have been huge, but every single one is in the first trailer. Sad. Then we get the... Yeah, then that's done. And... we get to the gas station sequence with the Mutadons, which I've kind of already gone over at this point, so I'll skip past it. I don't like it. Then we get all the tunnels. The tunnels are cool, very reminiscent of Jurassic Park the game and Jurassic World Aftermath. I like it. Oh, the Ket sequence, I've said this before, missed opportunity by not leaning into the Mayan stuff. Feathered serpent, come on. You could have gone really feathered and also have very snake-like things with it. Anyways, by the way, I will say I'm not a huge fan of the cat's design, especially the skull shape. It looks very silly. I do like the colors, though. So yeah. Then we get to the old lab and the car and everything. The D-Rex scene. I've heard a lot of people say, you know, they're really happy we didn't get the big fight. And I will say I am very happy to not see the Spinosaurus 3v1 the T-Rex, because, like, that would have been just another, it's bigger, and this time it's bigger. We have 4 giant theropods fighting each other. And then from there, sorry about background noise if you hear people talking. The rest of that sequence, it's Hatzegopteryx, not Kets. That's one thing I've heard said, and that later it was changed to Kets for some reason, which I will say about the Mosasaurus too. I wish that it was maybe Tylosaurus instead, and they could have found another explanation for how they're tracking it. Maybe the people at the village were tracking it. Yeah, I'll get to the Jeep. Hold on just a second. Yeah. And it would have been cool to see maybe some new species, because Titanosaurus and Acolops are like the only new ones in the movie. It would have been cool to see Tylosaurus instead of Mosasaurus. Teach people about Tylosaurus. We've already had 3 movies of Mosasaurus, and it looks basically the same, especially when you're taking that degree of creative liberty, and it would have logically made more sense within the film universe. Kets could have been Thanos or Hatzegopteryx. That would have been cool. What about Cryodraken? And I am kind of happy we didn't get a dinosaur fight. However, I would have not minded one tiny bit, especially with how empty the D-Rex ended up being, if the T-Rex just walked in and absolutely pieced up the D-Rex. Which, you would say, the D-Rex is absolutely huge. The T-Rex would never be able to kill it. But if you take its stated size and the fact that it's a mutant and probably is barely biologically functional, I could totally see the T-Rex actually having a cool moment for a second and winning a fight for once. And not getting nerfed constantly more and more every film. Like, it should have just beat the Giga. There should have not been the Theory in that final fight. It should have been a cool, close final fight where the T-Rex wins. That would have been awesome. Yeah, the T-Rex, ironically, feels the most like an animal. I will say, they did a good job of making them feel like animals. However, what makes them feel more like CGI green screen creatures, aside from the visuals, is that the animals, like, don't interact with each other whatsoever, which is one reason I wouldn't have minded a fight. The animals are all just there. Except for the Mutodons attacking the Velociraptors. When do any of the animals interact? We have the Dilophosaurus eating the remains of the Parasaur, which has been hunted by the T-Rex, which we don't see. The animals just interact with the people, and despite having so many side species, I don't feel like we see a larger ecosystem because there are no animal interactions whatsoever, and that doesn't have to be fights. Yeah, would have been cool. However, for the final sequence, what would have been awesome, we have the lab sequence at the beginning. The T-Rex gets foreshadowed. We get this whole thing, and this would have been also a little bit of cool meta commentary. Doing what they used for T-Rex, the sauropod body shape. It's a T-Rex body shape, they just decided to add extra arms because it doesn't really make sense. And it goes against the rule of all real science. There was a statement that maybe some sauropod was mixed in, but who knows. The T-Rex would look cooler if it was a little less mutant. You take some of the bulbousness off the top of the head, you get rid of the big gorilla arms, and you just have a cool, big, mutated T-Rex. That would be an awesome final villain. Wouldn't that be so cool? You get a messed up mutant T-Rex, an early attempt at the Indominus Rex, a T-Rex mistake. That would be cool. And people would understand that it's a T-Rex, and we got to see a real T-Rex in the movie, so it would have been cool. But nope. Also, side note, baby T-Rex would be kind of cute, and I think that even though hybrids probably won't be able to breed in Evolution 3, I wouldn't be mad if they did just because T-Rex, baby. Yeah, Megamind Rex, but also not that smart. So, would have been kind of nice to have that entire third act be different. I did like the scene of Duncan chasing it, having been chased into the water, because it made you think he was actually going to die. And it did the whole, people in my theater cheered when he was alive. It was cool. They did the whole, he wants to die in the water and not in the jungle. And it was epic. And he also dies saving kids, which his kid died, which of course is the Alan Grant, but different. Which I'm sorry I said that. People always compare anything similar to previous movies like it's therefore bad writing. That's not bad writing whatsoever, just because it has been done before in a different way. If you make every possible comparison, of course it's going to seem somewhat unreasonable. But, like, it's not. There's nothing wrong with that writing. Unless I'm missing something. But, in general, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. So then, when we get to the next bit of the movie, the D-Rex scene. Okay, I'm going back to what I was saying. In my rewrite of Rebirth, D-Rex is in the first scene, but it's different. Then they get to the D-Rex lab. They're in the old lab. There's obviously no Mutodons because we've just been interacting with Velociraptors this whole time. The helicopter just entirely misses them. Or, you know, have it get taken down by Pteranodons or whatever, if you want. So then, they get there, they go into the lab, and the D-Rex's skeleton is just there. It's just the skeleton of the D-Rex. And it's clearly been, like, eaten off of a long time ago, and it's partially decayed, and like, what's this? And it's the territory of the T-Rex. And the T-Rex is the surprise final villain. There's no D-Rex sequence. The T-Rex has killed it, and it's the final villain that they run away from. And that whole scene, Duncan escapes much the same way. Yeah, I really want to see Megamind ride the D-Rex into a fight with Titan. And then that's the sequence with the T-Rex. That would be cool. That would be my number 1 scenario. My number 2 scenario is the D-Rex versus T-Rex, and my number 3 scenario is what we actually got. And number 4 scenario would have been the D-Rex communicates with the Mutodons because they're both mutants, and then he commands the Mutodons to hunt them down and kill the helicopter. And then the D-Rex laughs and says, "Do you want to know how I got these scars?" And then eats everyone. I would like the chopper scene to not be in the movie, as I talked about earlier in the stream. So, then they do the escape. We get the Rebirth ending scene. The thing is, they do this whole thing with Henry's kind of convinced Sora that, hey, we should give this medicine to the world. And he's like, okay, it's your choice. And she says, yeah, of course, because she's not terrible, allegedly. And then, even though she's a mercenary, she does like nothing wrong within the movie, except want money, which she refuses in the end anyways, with very little convincing. And I didn't. The scene was a little bit too Jurassic Park all over again, which I didn't mind until the dolphins, which were jumping very fast and looked very silly and made me laugh in the first time I saw the movie. I liked it better the second time, and I like the music there, even though it's just the Jurassic Park music. It is good. It is just a worse version of the original, but it is good. And the ending scene was fine with them escaping on the boat. I enjoyed it. And yeah, it was pretty cool. The Delgados were enjoyable, which I've said before, but it would have been... The thing is, even if Zora was like, "No, I want the money," that wouldn't have done anything. Henry would be like, "Nope," and he would have taken it anyways. Duncan would have also agreed with him, and so would the family. Also, I like that they just took Dolores and basically just committed bioterrorism, and Dolores is going to die later anyways, which wouldn't happen if my rewrite of the film happened. So, I think it is time, before we do our lore discussion, that we talk about how I would rewrite the film. So, the film starts fairly similarly. Also, I just want to say that we never get rain at night, which is kind of sad. Well, we do, but only on the boat, not during an action sequence, so that was a little sad. The night bits were a little unconvincing, would have made the jungle a lot cooler, but oh well. So, that's My reread of the film starts the same. The dinosaurs are all dying out, and the excuse the public is being told, as we were originally told in the first opening bit of the film, is much like we're being told they can't adapt to the modern climate, even though they've been designed to do that and survive just fine in the theme park with seemingly very little specified taken care of for decades, and survives in the wilds of the islands for a while. Alright, hopefully you get some good sleep, Jay. Yeah, so hopefully they then, they're like, oh yeah, they can't adapt to the modern climate, which doesn't make much sense because there's no real reason that the tropical biome would be inherently superior for these dinosaurs. I guess it is warmer, but it's not like there's more oxygen, and not all these dinosaurs necessarily require warmer temperatures anyways. And, this is... Oh wait, listen to this music. This is Trespasser-esque. I like that. And, then they're like, the viewer's like, obviously this makes no sense. And we see that the Apatosaurus that has escaped from the zoo, maybe we still get that, but I would like to see some dinosaur like in the street that's like dead and it's being sprayed down by some like chemicals, and people are in the suits moving it away. And we get some like a little bit, something is wrong with this explanation. It doesn't really make sense. What's going on? Parkergenics is like, hey, we can cure heart disease with this samples. And the reason they're from the three biggest is no reason at all. It just happens to be those three species have the gene that they want. And it's because they live on Isla San Hubert. And that those three species have it. So what's actually going on is that the dinosaurs have the DX prion disease, which was being cared for while they were in the park. So why, you say, would it have taken so many years for it to be spread? And in the film, it would not be prion, it could be a heart disease. Why would it take so many years for people to start noticing this after many? One, you could have it be like it affects every other generation or something. So only second generation dinosaurs got the DX prion disease. And maybe the Jurassic World dinosaurs didn't. Maybe only a couple of species had the DX prion disease, and it predicated to the world. And the problem is, they would be like, alright, the dinosaurs are dying out from prion disease. Not a problem. We are tired of dinosaurs in our cities. And it just so happens the tropics are the last place they're alive because that's their highest concentration or whatever. So, then the DX, in the film we learn that's actually what Parkergenics is trying to cure, and we learn this from Martin Krebs while they are on the islands. And what's going on is that humans aren't dying from heart rate at a accelerated disease degree. It's not some random pandemic that's shown up. No, they are dying from the DX disease spread from dinosaurs, and this is the cure. You can have the same debate with the cure and sharing it to the world, or you can go a more complex route with what Parkergenics is up to, and that's more of a lore thing that I'll get to later. And much of the action of the film can say this same with, I'm happy all the dinosaurs died because now we can have Jurassic Park again. And I really dislike the mainland quote-unquote plot. And it would make so much sense. It'd be so easy to do the DX disease. Basically nothing has to change. Except it would be a better movie. It's called more plot complexity without making it weirdly complex, and adding in a detail that's right there. The heart disease is so random, and also doesn't scientifically make sense. What happened to your all real science rule, David Co-op? No? No DX disease? Come on. It fits perfectly into the movie. Two, also this island could have literally just been Sorna. But I don't mind because this island's very cool too, and is different in the lore. Whatever. So, then we go on to, that's basically my major rewrite, and then there's no mutants. and we have a cool mission on the island, but a little bit more at the ending of the film about what's going on with the DX and the global environment and parkogenics and whatever. So now let's talk about lore. The biggest question being, what's this island? Why is it here? Why is this not Isla Sorna? It's because they wanted to film in Thailand, but in the lore, why does this island exist? The whole thing they say is that this is an original Jurassic Park island. However, everything we see on it was built by Masrani Global / Engine during the Jurassic World era. So, quite simply, I think that this is Masrani's Site B. This is Isla Sorna Jurassic World Edition. That's literally just what this island is. Engine may have owned it beforehand. They may have leased it as a potential Jurassic Park location. Maybe they bought it up as, this is where we're going to open another Jurassic Park after the Nublar Park. And they weren't using it as a major research facility because they have Sorna. There's no reason to have another island. None of the animals on this island seemingly were created by 80s and 90s Engine. Every single thing on this island started at the very earliest in the early 2000s when Engine was doing under the table corrupt work and interacting with Sorna, but most of their stuff was being done on Sorna anyways because Masrani was there pretty early on, like 99, so there's no reason they would really need to be here. This is literally just Masrani's Isla Sorna, and it would be easier because there's certain international laws. Yeah, all the Jurassic World species were probably synthesized on this island. Yeah, I do think Old Engine owned this island, but they were not doing work here, at least not in a significant degree. So then, why not just use Isla Sorna? He already owned it. Well, if you go into the extended lore, there's actually many reasons for this. Unfortunately, I can't look at them anymore because the Masrani Global website has been taken down by Universal as a retcon. Literally. Hopefully we get some official lore on this and what's going on with this island, but I am pretty confident this is literally just Masrani's Site B, and he's evading certain international laws and making dinosaurs at larger scale and more efficiently here. Because he can't use Sorna for that same purpose, because of the laws set down with the Gene Guard Act and the Isla Sorna Protection Acts in the 90s and early 2000s. It makes perfect sense. And it makes us an ideal location for future Jurassic Park movies, and it makes me happy about having a third island. I was very apprehensive about Site C at first. I was like, just go back to Sorna. But this actually works, and we get a cool new location, and now we have 2 explorable islands. What fun. And I do hope we go back to Sorna, please, please, please. And so that's the major lore thing. The other thing is, what's going on with parkogenics? Many people have said that Parker is a reference to Hammond's name, but as we know, in 2022, Biosyn was kind of broken down. Biosyn Valley is now owned by the UN Council. Probably, Engine did not go out of business before Jurassic World. In 1997, they were planning to file for Chapter 11. As we see, they were able to keep their head above the surface until 1998, when Hammond died, and Masrani Global bought them out. They went Chapter 11, and then Masrani Global bought them out. So they were officially out of business, but then they were not because Masrani bought them, and they are a sub-company of Masrani Global, and he owned them. Engine then had money because they are part of Masrani Global, but continue to operate to a certain degree privately and under the table as a subsidiary of Masrani Global. And that's where we see Vic Hoskins. He's working for his own people, working basically within the company against Masrani as corruption. And after they're associated with Lockwood, but Lockwood did not know that Engine was in his basement. After Jurassic World, what's left of Engine, which is all Masrani money, but had been separated because Masrani Global owned all that lawsuit money, not Engine, but they clearly have, as we see in the novelizations, they have limited funding. And so that's why they need Lockwood's money. That's the only place they have left to go. So they go to Lockwood Manor, they operate there. Then after 2018, that is literally all that was left of Engine, and Engine is entirely shut down. However, all their data and everything That is then bought by Biosyn. However, in this movie, Parkergenics says they bought InGen's data, and that's how they're tracking the mosasaur. However, the mosasaur is clearly trackable on Dino Tracker website, which is DPG. So Biosyn, assumedly, is obviously working with DPG DFW, and is sharing all this information, all this tracking information. Well, actually, wait, hang on. The mosasaurus is not actively trackable, it's only trackable by sighting. So Biosyn had the ability to track it, but didn't provide that information to DFW. That is weird. Why would they not do that? Unless they had private wants for the mosasaur. But anyway, Biosyn then goes out of business after Dominion, and we hear that Parkergenics bought InGen's assets, which InGen is also then a subsidiary of Biosyn, or whatever was left of InGen. Or you could argue that maybe that wasn't the case and Parkergenics bought them out after 2018, but that would have been illegal. So maybe they are doing more illegal things. It's not specified because those websites are no longer canon, because they don't exist. Just like the Jurassic World website and the whatchamacallit, Fallen Kingdom website. Dinosaur, whatever. Yes, they would not legally have been allowed to operate breeding programs on Site B, and Isla Nublar was not large enough, so this is where they would have been breeding their dinosaurs. It actually is congruent within the lore. It's not my favorite thing they could have done, but it actually works out surprisingly well. So Parkergenics, I would like to see more of them in future movies, because I want to see what they're up to. They're kind of the new Biosyn. And my original thoughts when we first saw the D-Rex scene is that it was a red herring, the InGen logos, and that in the actual film would be edited over with Parkergenics logo, and we would see them. Oh, Grammarly ad. I don't care. And we would see in the actual movie that it was Parkergenics who was breeding dinosaurs on the island in 2010s. They owned Isla San Hubert, and he tells the mission people that this is this is an InGen Maltrani island. They go there, the others figure out that this is Parkergenics, and they are recovering their technology, where they were attempting to create the dinosaur, and that's where the T-Rex comes from, is their early attempts, because it makes no sense that the T-Rex would get messed up in the 2010s as an attempt to create a T-Rex, because they obviously know how to do it, and they've done it several times before. Now, it does make sense that Masrani would be breeding a T-Rex at this time, because I'm sure they were concerned about Rexy dying out, because Rexy is clearly in poor health and is quite old, and if Rexy dies out, and they don't have a replacement immediately, then they would want to have one. So it would make sense, but there's no reason they would have messed it up like that. But I do think that's where the Rebirth Rex comes from. And, these first, so they say I am. And, by the way, the name doesn't to earn that name. So if I get anything wrong ever, I must just become Jurassic. Or Jurassic Canon Regional Manager again. Oh well. Anyways, what was I saying? Lore. My favorite. And, anyway, I'd love to see what Parkergenics is doing, because that wasn't the actual route they took. I thought it was going to be nope, we're actually here to recover our technology, and they were trying to replicate and compete with Masrani Global, while Jurassic World was open in a more central location to the Atlantic Ocean, to people in Florida, which would have been interesting. But that's not what they went with, and I'm not mad that they didn't go with that, though it would have made for a more interesting film. Oh, wait, I just had an idea. What if they did that? Parkergenics was the one who owned Isla San Hubert. That was their attempt to compete with Masrani. They're creating all this technology, including the T-Rex as an early attempt. They have all the failed mutant dinosaurs. And then they what was it saying? Then they are the ones who accidentally created the DX. Because InGen and Masrani dinosaurs never had the DX disease, and it only got out because people were poaching dinosaurs from this island. And that's how it spread to the larger population and started killing humanity, and they're afraid people are going to find out, and so they are just going to sell the cure. Or they're so corrupt, this would be actually a little too silly, they're so corrupt that they intentionally created the disease so it would spread and kill people so they could sell the cure, but I think that's a little too silly. I like the idea there was an accident and then they're trying to make money off of it. That would have been way cooler for the lore. However, I'm actually fine with this and how it turned out. So, that's most of what I have to say, and I have to go to bed now because I have to get up early tomorrow. And I was very glad to talk about this movie. Hang on. But I do want to rank the movies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me just add Rebirth. No, I'm not logging in. Okay. Oh well. Hey, welcome. No, it was not, thank God. End of the movie. First thing. Okay. Rankings. I guess we have to end. This is my 5th favorite out of 7, but it is leagues above the ones below it. Number 1, Jurassic Park, 9.9 out of 10. Maybe 9.5. The Lost World, no, The Lost World's 9.5. Significantly below Jurassic Park. The Lost World is leagues above Jurassic World, which is a 9 out of 10. Which is substantially over JP3, which is an 8 out of 10. Which is better than this movie, which is like a 7, 7.5 out of 10. And then Fallen Kingdom is a 5 out of 10, and Dominion is a 1 out of 10. I would give this movie on a tier list like a B tier. Yeah, it's a low B. JP 10 out of 10. I don't think that JP is 10 out of 10. It is very, very good. It's my favorite movie of all time. But I think there are ways in which it could be improved, even though they are very minor. I do think it has the potential to be improved, and for that reason it's not exactly a 10 out of 10. It's a 9.9 out of 10. So yeah, that concludes our stream. Thank you for listening to this. Beast First, I think, has been here the whole time. For like over 2 hours. And if you guys have any questions about Rebirth and that weren't answered in the stream, I'm going to put out a post probably tomorrow asking for questions, which I will answer in the comments unless they were answered in the stream, and then I'll just say watch the stream at about this timestamp. So yeah, I hope everyone was able to have fun with the movie. And that is it for today's stream. Thank you. That was fun. Alright, bye now.